Hi, I'm Dave Williams. Thanks for joining me with Conversations.buzz, a very special episode because I get the chance to talk with my old friend and former colleague, Kitty O'Neill at KFBK. She is, in fact, a radio master. I don't normally do intros like this. This time I'm doing it specifically to let you know that during the conversation, we talk about Kitty's rock and roll band called Skyler's Pool. She explains why that's the name of the band. And at the end of the conversation, we have a music video of Skyler's Pool doing one of Kitty's original compositions. So stick around for that. If you're on YouTube, it's good to look at. It's fun to look at. You see lots of shots of Sacramento. And if you're just listening on a podcast app, you're going to love the music. Skyler's Pool coming up after we talk on Conversations.buzz.
Dave Williams presents Conversations.buzz.
You didn't hear it, but your voice just introduced this thing. Your recording of Dave Williams presents Conversations.buzz. That was you, and I appreciate you doing that.
Sure.
That's the first thing that happens. How are you?
Good. Still super busy, but I'm good and well.
You've always been one of the busiest people I know. As far back as we go together, working at KFBK. I started there in 1985. And you were there.
I was there.
Huh?
Yeah. Yeah, I was there. I think I was there right before you because I actually started before and worked for a temporary job there and then left and then came back in 85 prior to your being there. I feel like Eric St. John or somebody was there. I don't know. I don't remember.
Yeah, I'm sure he was. But you were Rush Limbaugh's call screener, right? When I was there.
I was there. Rush. I started with Morton Downey Jr. That's
no
who I
kidding.
Yeah, that's who I.
And yet you're only 37 years old now. I don't know how this works, but
yeah, yeah. So I was there very early on, before Rush.
As far as I can figure, and I really haven't done the math, and there's no point in us going into it, but you have. No doubt the longest history in the history of Sacramento radio, one person being on one station for so long, and it's unheard of in this industry.
I think you might be right, at least in that place. I mean, Tom Sullivan was there, I think, before I was, but he was doing different things and he's moved away and, still has his show. But I've been there physically in that station. You're right, for 85, 84, 85. We can do that math, right? So in 2025,
almost 40 years, almost 40,
38 years. Yeah. I know, it's crazy, Dave. It's just and I didn't really even know, when I started out there, I didn't know what I was going to do or how long I'd stay or how far I'd go. And I found that niche in the afternoon news and it suited me and I liked it and I never left.
As I recall, correct me if I'm wrong, I remember that when you were working on Rush's show, Rush put you on the air once in a while, but you really didn't have a regular time slot or a regular job on the air for probably another couple of 3 years. Is that right?
I think it went a little more quickly than that, but you are correct. When I worked with Rush, I was not on the air. And then one April Fool's Day, our then general manager, Rick Etchison, had Rush and swap roles where I did the show and he did the screening.
Yeah.
And it was like for half an hour. And that was my audition for on air, which I didn't know. And I passed, I guess. So what I ended up doing was working over at 92.5 in the morning doing news and then coming over back to KFBK and doing Rush. And sometimes I'd run back and be on with you guys.
Right.
So I'd go, right. Because I was on the morning, which I will never do again, but did it for like 7 years and then would stay and do, Rush's show. So
you were on the mornings for 7 years?
Yeah.
No kidding. That was before Bob and I showed up?
No, you were there. You were over there on, you had come but I was over on Y92,
Oh,
and I was,
oh, right, with Paul and Phil.
yeah, but before that I was with Rick someone, I can't remember, and then Rick and I can't remember his last name.
It's all right.
But and then Paul and Phil came. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So I did that while you were doing that. And then I would come over once in a while and do, I don't know, some kind of featurey things with you guys once in a while. I don't know if you remember that, but yeah, so I was busy. I was running all over that station.
Did you always want to be on the air? And well, what brought you to the radio station in the first place?
Well, I'd been singing in a band and I had my degree in communications. And instead of working, I thought I was going to sing for a while. And so we were playing all these gigs, and I was negotiating a gig with somebody at the Sacramento Bee for one of their big McClatchy parties. We were going to play one of their big parties.
Yeah.
And I was talking to the guy, he says, "Oh, well, tell me about yourself," and I said, "Well, I have my degree in communications from Sac State." And he said, "Would you like to come down and maybe look for a job at the Bee?" And I said, "I'll see what you have." And so there was a job. This brings me to my, origins there at KPK, for temporary, part-time, minimum wage to fill in for a young woman who was the call screener, but was out on sick leave.
Yeah.
And I said, "What? I think a radio station sounds really fun." So I got that job, and that was my first foot in the door.
Now, when you were screening, you said you got your first job there with Morton Downey Jr., right? With his show, and then with Rush. They were both controversial figures. They were both guys that could rile people up. Although in those days it was nothing like it is today, or nothing to the extent that Rush managed to raise the hackles of an entire country and the world and so forth. But that must have been an interesting little introduction to call screening for you when you found yourself answering calls from people who were really upset about something he'd said, or just wanted to fight and argue and that kind of thing.
Yeah, I'd never run into anything like that before. I mean, for me, radio was, music. I never listened to, I was, 20 something or early 20 something. And I found this to be really unusual. And Morton Downey Jr. and Rush Limbaugh had completely different styles, although probably the end game was what you described, the same. But Mort was much more, well, I think he got a little more excited and over animated. But then in person, he was really quiet and just was low key and smoked like a smokestack. I remember that. And Rush was warmer in person. And well, you knew him, so you know what I'm talking about. But we watched Rush get his footing here, but they were both different. And Morton Downey Jr. was fired, while I was working with him.
Yeah, I
for
remember that.
Yeah, for a joke that he told, that even back in the day, I mean, it was hard to be offensive back in the 80s, Dave, but he way and got the boot, and then people filled in for a little while, and then that's when Rush came in to take his spot. So
Just
that's how that.
for those who are watching and listening and going, "What was the joke?" I don't remember the joke, or I would tell it. But
I know it.
do you?
Oh yeah, I totally remember it.
Well, go ahead.
Really?
Well, yeah. I mean, we're talking about a guy getting fired from a radio job 40 years ago. I mean, it can't be that bad.
Yeah, so this was the joke. In essence, it was about some Chinese people who are working on a railroad, and the foreman. This is a horrible joke, by the way. And the foreman says, "I need you to go to the top and get some supplies and bring them.
Oh,
Go get the. Yeah, you know where I'm going.
I
Get some."
think so.
Okay, so he waits and waits. They don't come. They don't come. So he finally goes up there and looking for him, and then they jump out from behind a shed and go, "Supplies, supplies."
Supplies.
Not even a good joke.
No, it was just dumb.
Job over. But I remember, I remember the phone rang, KFPK, and this is a city council person, Tom Chin.
Yep.
Okay. He might have a problem with this joke. So that's what I recall about that incident. Morton Downey was off, I think, suspended for a couple of days, and then he was gone.
As I recall, there was a news conference after that, or
Mm.
Morton Downey was explaining himself. He was apologizing, and I think at that point he referred to Councilman Chin as a Chinaman.
You know what? Yes, Dave. In fact, I left out the most important part of the joke. I think during the joke, because it just does it's not in my vocabulary.
Yeah,
That's how they refer to Chinaman or Chinaman
right,
or whatever.
right,
Yeah, that was one of the most offensive parts of the joke to Councilman Chin.
right. And
Yeah.
the thing that caught the thing that caught me at that, I it probably get people all riled up here too, but at that point I was 30, I guess, something like that, 31 maybe, and it was the first time I'd ever heard that being considered, an offensive term. Because, and I remember talking about it on the air. I said,
Mm.
no, I don't, I wasn't there. I didn't hear the exact comments. I didn't hear the context and everything. But what I don't understand is we have Englishmen, we have Frenchmen. That's fine.
Mm.
Why is
Mhm.
Chinaman offensive?
Mm.
Nobody did really ever explain it to me, but I learned that it just is. And that's fine. People have a right to their sensitivities and everything. But that was one of the strangest firings that I can remember seeing.
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, you can imagine me. This is like my first job, and I'm like,
Right.
wow, this is wild,
Welcome to
crazy.
radio. People
Yeah.
still people still ask me about Rush. And I'm sure that you've been talking about Rush for, most of your life. But I'm wondering if you would back me up when I say when I tell people this. I said, if you can set aside whatever you thought of his politics or his manner on the air, I'll tell you honestly, he was one of the nicest people you will ever meet. And when it came to him being bombastic and all that, in a social setting, Rush was the guy sitting in the corner of the room by himself with a drink,
Yeah.
just being very quiet and kind of a wallflower.
Yes, you're absolutely right about that. And I will preface this by saying people can't get past their politics because I've had people who've unfriended me on Facebook just my virtue of, expressing, um, maybe some sadness when he died. I mean, it
Yeah.
was more like good riddance, and yeah, people can't, and I understand it. I mean, I know he was terribly offensive to a lot of people, but what you're saying is true. In real life, in everyday life, he was a very nice person. I went to his
He was a
wedding.
lovable little fuzzball, as he said.
But he sure, yeah, but I know, but he sure offended people. But if people think he's such a bigot. I mean, he was married by a black minister.
Yeah.
Elton John, obviously openly gay, played at his wedding. I mean, it was, if you knew him in real life, it was like you didn't see the person that,
Right.
people
And
portray him.
yet, if you explain that to people, they say, "Oh, so on the air, the whole thing on the air was just an act." And then you go,
Right.
"Well, yeah, but it was an
Right.
act. But he was being himself. He was being real in terms of the things he said, the things he thought, but he was being bigger than life." Right.
Yeah, yeah, I would say that. And he used to say he would illustrate absurdity by being absurd,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know. So mm, yeah, interesting chapter.
Yeah. So what else stands out about your career? And did you ever have any desire or any offers to go elsewhere, to move into the big cities and that sort of thing?
Well, I did, and actually Rush asked me to go to New York with him, but
Oh, is that right?
yeah, but I didn't want to do it. I had my parents were alive and we were super close. I didn't want to leave them. I wasn't married when he left, but I was engaged. And so, my husband has business here. He probably could have, worked his way around in New York, but I don't know, Dave. It just wasn't what I wanted to do. I really didn't want to be a call screener. And frankly, I was kind of uncomfortable in that whole talk show world. It's not really, what where I want to be. I preferred the news, and so it just didn't feel like the right thing to do.
Yeah.
So didn't,
He was
you know.
inviting you to come along as a call screener or as
Mhm.
a producer type?
I don't know. He just said, "Come with me to New York," and I
I
said, "I
see.
did."
And
But yeah,
you were so far beyond call screening at that point.
yeah, it's not what I wanted to do. I think I would have been the Nerdly or whoever he had.
Yeah.
I guess I don't know,
Yeah.
or Kit Carson. Maybe Kit his role. It really wasn't defined, but it just wasn't something I'd even wanted to explore, really.
Mm. I remember mornings when you would fill in if I was on vacation or if Bob was out, and you'd come through the door there at a few minutes before 5 a.m. and sit down and we do a 4-hour show. But I always got a little bit of a laugh because you just seemed so uncomfortable at that time of day. You look fine, you look great as always, but I can remember making fun of you and saying, "Oh well, Kitty's been up all night long messing up her hair so that she looks right to go on the air here." Uh,
Yeah,
you were
there was
never a
that.
morning person.
No, Dave, I was not. Never, I never have been, and it was kind of torturous for me to do those years that I did the morning drive. I don't know how you did it. I mean, what do you do? Are you a morning now?
I retired a month ago.
Oh, okay. Were you doing morning up until then?
Yep.
Ah,
I've been
I
getting up at 2:30 in the morning to go to work for 50 years. And
Dave.
and
What? Uh,
finally Carol Ann says, "Don't you think that's enough?" I said, yeah,
yes.
yeah, it really is.
So how do you even adjust to a more normal schedule? I mean, how's that been? May I switch roles? How is that like for you? I want to know. Somebody who got up at 2:30 for 50 years.
Well, I sleep in now until I get up between 5 and 6. I really am a morning person. And
Good.
I figure 5 a.m. is morning. 2:30 is the middle of the freaking night,
Yeah. Yeah.
you never really get used to that. So it's been a happy transition and an easy one for me.
Wow. Yeah. No, I never got used to it. That was my problem. I just never did. And I couldn't go to bed early because I'm a night person. I mean, I
Yeah.
still go to night. So yeah, I don't know. It's just the way I'm made and the way you're made, it worked out for you. That's
You're
fantastic.
you're still singing? You're still in the band?
I have different musical projects. Yes, I've had a band now for 8 years. That's original music that we write and record. I'm in this thing called the Beatles Guitar Project, which is a nonprofit where it's a music academy that teaches kids how to play guitar all through Beatles music.
Really?
And yeah, and so we go out and perform as a group, and the kids are kind of in the back. Some of them, if they're really good, will get to be in the front. But it's like professional orchestra and professional musicians in the front, singers, vocalists, musicians, like multimedia, all kinds of video. And Dave, we have played, I don't know if these venues mean anything to you where you are now, but the Mondavi Center in Davis, which is
Oh, sure.
beautiful, the Sacramento Memorial Auditorium,
Right.
the Community Center Theater, the Harris Center in Davis. In Folsom. I mean, we play the Crest Theater, beautiful theaters all around, Northern California in this group, and it's just a lot of fun.
What age are the kids?
The kids are, I mean, they're probably as young as 7 to, teenagers, probably 17, 18.
And you got them
Yeah.
doing Beatles music.
And they love yes, yes, Beatles music, which is, funny. But you look at, I mean, as you know, I mean, Beatles music runs the gamut and can be
Yeah.
very pop, very complex. And so they learn a lot about, chords and rhythm and, melody and all kinds of things. So it's great education for them, but it's just something fun. We just played four shows not that long ago, like a month or two ago.
And as far as your own performance is concerned with your band, you stick close to Sacramento primarily, your Northern California performances and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, we do. We play mostly. We've done a lot of festivals and some clubs. It just depends. It's original music, so that group. So it's maybe suited for some things more than others. Some clubs like cover bands, top 40, that kind of thing.
Yeah, original music. That's interesting. Who's writing it?
My husband and I write it, and
Yeah,
we record. Yeah, it's on Apple and Amazon and Spotify, and you can find Skyler's Pool is the name of the band. So yeah, we've got music out there.
Skyler's Pool. Yeah, I was going to ask you about that. Where'd the name come from? Was it?
Well, there's a show called Breaking Bad. Did you ever watch any of that?
No.
Do you get to watch TV? Did you ever watch TV and all you're working because you had a weird schedule? Did you
Yeah.
watch?
Oh yes, I see TV. I
I'm sure.
watch MASH once in a while.
Yes. But you've heard of Breaking Bad, no doubt.
Yes. Oh, Breaking Bad. I'm sorry, I didn't understand. I think you're on your phone, and it's kind of it mutes.
Oh,
if we're both
sorry.
talking at the same time, so it kind of cut off. Yes, Breaking Bad. I have seen. Yes.
Okay. Well, there's a character named Skyler who is the wife of the lead character, and they have a pool.
Uh-huh.
And that pool was almost like a character in that show. All kinds of things happened, fun, tragedy, and there was. And I'm going to get a little deep here. There was a scene where she, at a party, was just kind of overcome with all of her situation and went fully clothed down into the pool, under the pool, to just have this quiet. When we were working on the band, my mother was in failing health, and I knew she was going to pass. And I was extremely close to her. And the band to me was like a distraction, and it kept me focused in a completely different way and not on my sadness. And it was almost like when I saw that scene in the show, Dave, it was like the pool allowed me to go, or the band, like the pool, the band allowed me to go kind of just underwater and immerse myself in something new. And I said to myself while I was getting ready to go out in the bathroom, and I said to myself, that band is like my pool, my Skyler's Pool.
Wow.
And I thought, Skyler's Pool, that band is. So I'm naming it that. And so that's how that happened.
I don't remember that part of the show. I'll be honest with you, it's because I couldn't watch the show. I got tired of it. I didn't like it.
It was intense.
Yeah, I mean, I'm one of the 2 or 3 people, I think, in the country that just didn't finish. I was on the air and trying to stay current with the culture and everything.
Yeah.
But my problem with that show, with a lot of American TV since, as a matter of fact, have been that it was so dark, and the characters, it was like there was nobody that I could really care about. Yeah. So that just kind of turned me off. But
they were all conflicted. I mean, Jesse, that little character, he had some extremely tender moments. But you know what? I'm thinking when you say that, I wouldn't watch The Sopranos with my husband. Like, he'd say, "You got to watch this." I'm like, "No, it's too violent. I'm not going to watch that." And now I kind of regret it because it's been hailed as one of the greatest series of all time. Did you watch The Sopranos?
I did all the way through from beginning to end.
Oh, right. So
but there's some of the characters there. Tony Soprano himself, you love the guy. Yes, he's a bloodthirsty murderer, but it was just all business. He was a good family man,
Yes.
Ultimate protagonist. But so I was about to ask you. Oh, okay. You mentioned your husband a couple of times, and we're talking about Kurt Spataro, who everybody in Northern California knows is a very, very well-known chef and restaurateur. He's got how many restaurants does he have now?
Well, let's see.
You have to stop and think. That's significant.
I think there's six like regular restaurants, but then he has 2 at the airport, and then he has 3 or 4 in the arena, our Golden One Arena where the Kings play.
No kidding.
There's spread out.
So I guess he's still a little busy, huh?
He's really busy. And, he had started this whole business with a gentleman named Randy Paragary.
Right.
Who? Randy passed on. I don't know if you knew that.
No, I did not know that.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm sorry to hear that. I remember Paragary's restaurant very well and got to know him a little bit.
Yes. Well, it was a huge surprise, and I can't, is awful. I was a year ago, July. He was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer, and he was like gone in 3 months. I mean, it was the most sudden, shocking thing ever.
Mm.
Um, and so, yeah, he had worked with Randy for years, but now Randy's widow, Stacy, Kurt pretty much runs, he ran all the kitchens anyway. So thankfully, there was no disruption in that regard. So yeah, so he runs it with Stacy Perigary now. And so he's very busy.
Are either of you thinking at all about calling it quits?
Calling it a Dave Williams like you
Yeah.
did last.
Yeah.
Well, Dave, let's see. In 2024, I start my new contract, which is for 3 years with then a 2-year option.
Mm-hmm.
So it could be, I guess, 3 to 5 more years. Yeah. And then maybe, I think so. What's it like to be?
The hard part for me was not doing the work, not doing the job on the air. It's just trying to get up for it, After a while, anything becomes rote, and you get to a point where it's just another day in the office. It's so funny because in radio, the first thing they try to teach you is to speak naturally, talk like yourself, talk like you're just talking to one person, which I always thought was the stupidest piece of advice because, yeah, I can pretend like I'm talking to one person, but I know I'm not. And so anyway, so you go through that entire process of learning how to do it, and then after a while, you get to a point where you've forgotten the microphone and everything else, and that's usually a pretty good place. But just trying to get up for it every day. And you go on the air at what time?
I don't hit till 4. I have
Right.
a 4 shift, which, I love.
Yeah.
It's fun when I'm off work, like 4 o'clock is when I just kind of want to chill out and relax, but when I'm at work, 4 o'clock is when I'm
Yeah.
starting, really. But I work all through the morning. I mean, the workload has changed significantly. I mean, COVID did a number on a lot of people's lives. And in mine in particular, some people left and I absorbed their work. So
Yeah.
I'm harder than I ever have in my whole career.
Well, that's pretty common with the industry throughout. They
Yeah.
have people doing 3 and 4 jobs at a time instead of just the
Yeah.
one that they used to do. And it's unfortunate. I think that somebody who's on the air and your primary purpose is to deliver the product to the listener, to bring them the content, bring them the information, to do so smartly and with a flair for entertainment and so forth. Well, if you've been working all day long at preparing that material, by the time you get on the air, it's just almost too much to ask. I think it's a real shame. I think the audience misses out.
I think it's sad. And, there's a lot of digital that I do. And, that's not necessarily what I signed up for, but it
Yeah.
has to be done at the age we're in. So I do it. I look at it like, well, what else would you, even in the current state that it's in, what would you like to do more? Where would you like to be making a living? And it's hard to come up with a second place. So, I signed on. I signed on for more, Dave. I have a question for you. You always had such a you talk about natural, super relaxed, kind of off the cuff sounding. I mean, you made it sound so easy what you did, but there's a lot of talent behind that. And I'm just curious if that was always your style. I mean, I just remember you and I would just be in awe. I think, how does he do that? He's just so easy going,
Well,
but
thank you. That's very nice. No, I started off as a top 40 disc jockey, and I really wasn't good because that was back in the day when everybody was talking like this, and talking as fast as they can and introducing, hey, and I just was no good at it. I'm just me and just able to say what I'm thinking, but I have to think. A lot of people get upset in the business if you pause,
uh,
if you stop.
yeah.
And I learned early on, and I think a lot of it has to do with my work in theater, on stage. I learned that silence is one of the most powerful things you can do in a performance. You would know that as a singer, even,
Yep. Yep.
you
Yep.
stop down and you let the audience have that moment with you, the thought and the feeling and all that stuff. And it works on the radio too. And people will be surprised by that, but you don't have to see the performer in order to feel the point that's being made. So I was always much more comfortable doing talk radio. I did okay reading news too, but it was just reading. So
Well, you were phenomenal, and I'm just curious about your theater. You were so good. I would go to see you at those plays. Back then, it was at the Stage Door Comedy Playhouse or something like that.
right.
Have you kept up your theater?
No.
No.
When I left Sacramento, I left theater there.
Oh,
It was because Stage Door Comedy Playhouse was really my home away from home, and all those people there that owned the place and ran the place and so forth. It became more important to me than doing theater. I was never, I never had any ambitions in terms of acting and so forth. I did enjoy it. It was a lot of fun, and I did direct a lot of shows there too, and that was enjoyable. But except for the fact that a few years ago, they did one of my plays that I wrote in Romania. Well,
we had a little Frozen moment there.
that was weird. That's the first time that's ever happened.
Yeah, that was odd. But you said you left that that was your home away from home when you left the Stage Door, when you left Sacramento. That was it.
Yeah. But just a few years ago, while I was still in Dallas, there was the National Theater in Romania did my first comedy there.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it was quite a thrill. And I flew over there to go see it. And it was a very weird experience because I sat there and watched my play being performed by wonderful, wonderful actors in a beautiful, fabulous set in this beautiful theater. And I couldn't understand a word they were saying.
I forgot you were a playwright. Yes, you were.
But all the laughs came in the right places, and the check cashed, and people were very nice. So anyway, this is great. You've been interviewing me.
That's what I do,
That's right. Yeah. Well, listen, I'm going to let you go. It's so nice to see you and to have a little time. I was we were both at the KFBK 100th anniversary together last year, and it was wonderful to see you then. But you were so busy; you were just all over that building, and being called upon by everybody in the room, and wanting your pictures and all that stuff. So it's nice to be able to have a chance to talk with you.
I know. I really enjoyed catching up with you. I do think of you from time to time, Dave. You're just one of those really early memories of my starting in this business. And I always, looked up to you. And I just think you've had a remarkable career. I guess I'm glad to hear that you're finally taking time for yourself and not getting up at 2:30. Oh my gosh.
No, but as you can see, I can't stay completely away from it. I like to talk to people. I like to ask questions. So
that's great. That's good. I'm glad you're doing it.
All right, Kitty, thank you. I'm going to put this together. I'll let you know when it's done, and I'll send you a link and all that. I always make the sign off a little uncomfortable, a little weird. What I need to do is say thank you and then stop so that I can edit there. But I always say thank you and blah 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 blah, so it looks really stupid. So thank you. Now enjoy Skyler's Pool with Kitty O'Neill.
She walks giving up the boundaries to the breeze. Hard to uproot where you always grew. Turn and take yourself to someplace new. Find a clearing in the clouds. Leave the voices of the crowd. Yeah. She walks in the sunlight. She walks in the day. She walks in the moonlight. Let her find her way. She walks. She walks.
And stop.